afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome back to a brand new TAT pod. Hope you guys are having a wonderful Saturday evening. Hope you've not been crying too much after a very emotional afternoon at Anfield for a few reasons, but we'll get into that. But first of all, I need to introduce you to two new members of the TAT pod. These guys have just joined and it's their debut, so please give them a lovely, nice, warm welcome in the comments if you're watching this live or if you're watching this back. First of all, we've got Craig. How you doing, mate? You need to unmute, mate.
What a way to start.
Yeah, there we go, mate. Get the cobwebs off first, you know.
Good season, I think. But yeah, here. Thanks for having us. Great to be on, guys.
No, absolute pleasure, mate. And then we've also got Mike. How you doing, mate?
Yeah, man, I'm doing good. So I'm excited to start doing this. I think it'll be good to hear everyone's opinions on things. I know Craig's got a few interesting ones already. So
yeah, I mean, we just had a brief chat off air, but you two will be glad to know that you've joined at the absolute right time, because this has been an absolute slog this season. Let me tell you, sometimes I've started up a stream and thought, this is the last thing I want to be doing, you know, after a day at work or whatever, and then you've got to come home and talk about this season. But the end is nearly there. Looks like Champions League hopes are all but over, which I think, to be honest, we was kind of hoping for a miracle anyway, but still doesn't mean that, you know, today's performance should be excused. And we will get straight onto that now. But guys, like I say, if you're watching this after the live stream, if you're watching this back, please smash a like, please leave a comment, still get involved. And yeah, let's get on to it. So this is how we're lined up. And Craig, we always start these shows by discussing the lineups and, you know, what we agree with, what we necessarily didn't agree with. But at the minute, well, before today, it seems like we'd found a winning formula, and that was pretty much going to be how we lined up until the rest of the season. So was you happy to see this one again, or did you think maybe something else could have changed? Or
no, 100% with who we have available right now. That was definitely the team picked itself. You know, I think Henderson's probably the only one that you could have made way. But outside of that, everyone has been on it recently. So I was very happy with the team to start, and kind of couldn't see another team coming out. So that was a good sign in itself that we actually can know what our strongest team is at the moment, even though it didn't show today.
Absolutely. When the team came out, you know, I was just like, you know what, that's kind of what everybody would have predicted. Maybe, yeah, like you say, Jota potentially could have played, and a couple of the midfield guys probably could have swapped. But yeah, we found a team, haven't we? Well, before today, like I say, that seemed to get the job done. But Michael, was you happy with it, mate? Or was there anything you would have liked to have seen different?
I think I'm similar to you, Ben. I probably would have took Diaz out, put Jota in. I think Diaz is still a long way off where he needs to be at, which, I mean, it's to be expected. You know, he's missed pretty much the whole of the season through injury. He's not going to come back in a flash, especially with, you know, his playing style. It's not like Jota, where Jota's just a clinical finisher in the box, so maybe he found his feet a bit quicker. But I don't know, I'd prefer to see Jota today, and I'm not sure what you guys thought of Diaz's performance, but I personally wouldn't have thought it was a 7 as it was given, but that's just me.
Yeah, no, I agree completely. I think I speak to, because I was also against my brother if we're not in the game, and he seemed a bit rusty. His first touch was a bit off. It seemed like he just wanted to dribble with the ball every time he got onto it. And I just needed somebody on that pitch that was going to get a chance and take it, to be honest. And Jota has been brilliant since he's come back in. So yeah, it's hindsight, isn't it? Like, Diaz could have been brilliant today, but I think I'd have liked to have seen Jota a bit earlier than what he got. One comment so far is from my boy Asim Mahmood. Please go ahead and subscribe to Born in Red. Absolutely brilliant channel. Do content very, very regularly throughout the week. Loads of different shows. So make sure you go show those guys some love. Yeah, let's get on to the big first talking point then, because to be honest, I can't really remember it off the top of my head. So I've just got the highlights on my phone. So I'm just going to keep looking down to see what's next. But Craig, they play one long ball over the top. It seems to get away from Konate, and they have a penalty. So when you see that and you see Konate in those moments, obviously we know how good this guy is and how good he can become. Do you still think there's a bit more learning to do, or do you think it is literally just, you know, he got it wrong? Or what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, Konate is a funny one for me, because he's absolutely adored by the fans. You know, out of the centre backs that we have, he's the next popular, and he is the second choice after Van Dijk in everyone's mind. But he has as many mistakes in him as Mata and maybe Gomez do. In my mind, he's an absolute rock solid defender. There's, like, you know, when you come up against the tallest striker in the league, he's the man you want in there. But yeah, he has those issues that Matip has. Like the ball can get stuck between his feet when he's playing with the ball, and then just the odd rash tackle. So he's definitely not the finished article. But like if he can stay fit over the next few years, then we will see what he's like. Because again, defenders they don't hit their peak until a certain age. So if he's like at the young age, I'm still hopeful for the future for him 100%. But yeah, it was definitely mistimed and unfortunate as well, because like that was our second bit of play in the whole game. Outside of that, we were pressing like monsters, and they were just kind of switching to the left, and that was their only tactic, and it worked. That was the thing, though; it worked really well. They did it well.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there was a couple of the other tactics in there, such as going down every single time a tackle was made and they got a free kick, which is a thing we're seeing a lot at the minute against us, but we'll get onto that in a bit. But yeah, spot on, mate. I agree. I think Konate is absolutely brilliant, and to get him for the money that we got him for, and to say he's nowhere near his peak, I think he's a top signing. But I also agree with, sometimes it can be a bit rash, and I think we saw that today. But Mike, who was it that stuck? Was it Watkins, wasn't it? Stood up for the pen, drags it wide, mate. What are you feeling at that point, mate, when you see that ball go wide?
Thought we had a bit of luck on our side. I thought, that's the wake-up call we kind of needed. Just touching on Konate, I think the thing is, like you say, he's a spectacular player. He's only going to get better. I think as a defensive line, we're still adjusting to having Konate cover that particular area. He's a lot wider than he'd normally be, which is where the gap is, which fair play to Villa. They did exploit with the ball over the top. It was right in between where that space was. And that's where Watkins just kept going and going and going. Because he went through straight after the penalty as well, didn't he?
Yeah.
I think it was Van Dijk covered him, thankfully. But yeah, no, when the penalties missed, big sigh of relief inside the stadium, I think we all felt. But we just didn't switch on. And we've seen it time and time again this season, haven't we? Where we've had a little let off and you think, okay, now's the wake-up call. Now we're going to bounce back. Don't know if it's a lack of leadership, a lack of awareness, or just maybe because the confidence is where it is at the moment. But no one woke up. It took until we were 1-0 down half-time before we ever seen a reaction, really.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. And, we went 1-0 down. And, again, it was a bit of what we've seen a lot recently with Liverpool, especially this season. They kept spamming balls into the box. We were dealing with it. Each ball was going back out, but then they put one into the back post, which is an area which a lot of teams have killed us this season, to be honest. And people will look at Trent. That's fine. Blame him all you want. But I don't know. I'm watching it back now. I think there's just a confusion between Trent and Konate at the back post. I think it is Trent's man to start with, but I'm not sure why he's not gone to it. Craig, what do you think's happened for their goal, mate? What do you think's gone wrong there?
We were talking about the tactics of Villa there. They didn't really bring too much to it, barring long throws and what you're talking about there and talking about the time wasting. And it was the second ball off the long throws that was killing us. Like we were getting onto the first one, but you saw that there was it Firmino that headed it out weakly. It wasn't a difficult throw in to deal with. And then all of a sudden it's the second phase, the third phase, or whatever, and goal. So I was more annoyed with kind of how we're reacting to those second balls. Then that was a good ball. We've scored many goals like that ourselves, where it's just in the right area and it's up in the air between two guys and who gets there first. So we could have dealt with that earlier, in my opinion, and that was probably the bigger issue. And clearly Villa were looking for it too.
Yeah, 100%. And I think Alisson's called straight into action again. Straight after that, they go through and he comes out and makes the save. And it made me think again, like without Alisson, I don't know where we'd be this season, because even, games like today against the likes of Villa, he's coming out and making so many 1v1 saves. And it was just, we never kicked on. And I think that's been the case a lot this season. We get off the hook. There's a decision that happens or whatever. Somebody misses a chance and you're like, okay, that's going to kick some sort of fight into them now. And it took us until we did get the goal, which was in the 80th minute, which we'll come on to a bit later. Or I can't remember exactly when it was, but it was late on into the game. That's when we then started to push. And that's when we then, maybe we can get another goal. But we should have done that way earlier. The old Liverpool would have. The old Liverpool, as soon as we got that first goal, would have thought, okay, this hasn't been a great start, but we've still got all this time to put the record straight. And especially at Anfield, there'd be no doubt in anybody's mind that we would go on to do it from 1-0 down. But now, this has been like the 10th game this season where we've gotten 1-0 down at home. And automatically think to myself, well, it's going to be a point now. Like we're gonna get a draw at best. Mike, are you on the same page as me there, mate?
Yeah, I'm similar to. Never going to blame fans for anything, but I feel like it's got to the point now where we went a goal behind, and there was a feeling within the crowd where it was, instead of trying to urge the team for a reaction, it felt more like we were all just frustrated, if that makes sense. I remember during that season where we had the injuries in defence and we were playing like Reece Williams and Nat Phillips, the absolute icons that they were at the back. And it was a similar energy there where it was, we concede, and instead of the fans kind of going, all right, we're going to get back in this, and the players feeling the same, it felt more like here we go again kind of thing. And, it's easy to blame the age of the squad or, having issues in midfield. But it's like Craig said before, the long throwing, like we faced it 3 times in the last 4 games where we've been exploited at the exact same thing with the long throw, and we've not looked comfortable, not once. And I don't know what that comes down to, whether that's a player thing, whether it's a coaching side, but tactically we do not seem ready for it, because we're always ready to deal with the high line. We know the cost, the cause and effect of us playing that. We play the high line for the press, trigger points high up the pitch, and we accept the fact the long ball might go over the top, and we have to deal with it. But when we look so vulnerable from simple positions, a long throw, set piece, back, like you said, back stick, God knows how many times a season we've been exploited at. You have to kind of wonder how, what is the thinking long term to try and find a solution, because it's not a sign £100 million player and this is fixed. It's a deeper issue than that.
100%, mate. Agree with what you're saying. KFC delivery, I could do with KFC now. Man City crowned champions. Yeah, well done. Who would have thought it? Like, wow, brilliant. Yeah.
Arsenal losing then.
Yeah, they lost to Forest.
I've been on the journey home. I didn't even see the Arsenal result. You being serious?
Yeah. Tyrone scored again.
Yeah. And Jude might take the Bundesliga as well.
I'm in shock. You being not Forest won, yeah.
Yeah, Forest won, yeah. They're staying up now. I think that's confirmed.
Wow. Okay, we'll move on. I'll react to that after the game. That's after the chat. That's mad.
That is crazy. But guys, we have got a little debate now because we spoke about this off camera. Craig's smiling already because he's gonna probably annoy a few of you guys watching. Officiating in this game. Now, I thought, and me and Mike, but we both agreed, because people will instantly turn around and say, "What about the Jota one?" If you're saying that's a red card, then this is a red card. And at the time, I was like, no, you know what? Jota is not a red card. Just because it's Jota, it's my player. You got to say those things. But I think now that both of them are red cards. This one is, for me, 100% a red card because he has gone to play the ball. I can't show the clip because I don't want the channel to get taken down. He's played the ball, but the follow through is so high on his chest. And then when Gakpo takes his shirt off to show the referee, he's got like 3 gashes going down his chest. And for me, that's just way too high. I think if it was just below, maybe. But I think when you're talking your chest, for me, accidental or not, I think it comes into dangerous play. And, that could have been a serious injury for Cody Gakpo. But Craig, you was not agreeing. So, yeah, what were your thoughts on that, mate?
Just, I from the point of view, I always try and look at this from, the other way around. If that was a Liverpool player that did it, and how would I feel if it was the red card? And I feel like Fabinho's done that a few times. Like obviously not the same damage or the stud marks on the chest. So we haven't seen that, but definitely throwing in a high tackle just to win a ball off someone in a 50-50 kind of situation. And in that regard as well, Gakpo is coming in at it with his knee. He's not going in to try and to control the ball or anything else like that. So I feel like it wasn't reckless. He played the ball, and yeah, he caught him on the follow through. I thought a yellow card was fair enough. And the pictures look worse. I'd actually feel like that if that was on the leg, that would be a much worse injury than if it was on the chest.
No,
I think that's fair, Mike.
I don't think that's fair. Maybe it's for the great. Thing is, I like you, man. You're great, but like I think when you look at the attack, like the marks on his chest, it's a full boot to the chest. It's not a scrape. Like it's a full boot in the chest. We've seen some of the injuries in terms of concussions and chest injuries that can occur on a football pitch over the last couple of years that can be very long-term damaging. I personally I thought it was a red card. And like Ben said before, like the Jota one a couple of weeks back is a red card. Like it is. Like I'm more than honest to say that. Maybe it's karma in the sense that we didn't get a red one for this one. It is what it is. It all balances out. But I'm shocked that VAR. I mean, we'll talk about VAR throughout this chat, I'm sure. But I'm shocked they looked at that in slow-mo, normal speed, whatever, and deemed that not to be serious foul play. Because for me, serious foul play comes under the pretense of possible long-term harm to a player. Like you said, yeah, on a leg, 100%, that would probably be worse in the sense, you could break a leg. But the speed at which he's going into Gakpo's chest, that could also cause a lot of issues. And for me, yeah, I think it is a red. I think it is. I was shocked that VAR deemed it not to be. And considering Gakpo was bleeding from his chest still after he scored, it looks like straight out of Gladiator, to be honest, mate. But yeah, for me, mate, it's a straight red. Ben, what did you think?
Yeah, I thought it was. And in the time in fast motion, I didn't because I didn't really get to see it. But I think obviously when I showed the replays, when the Gakpo's taken his shirt off and shown the mess that his chest was left in, I thought it was a red. But it is what it is. We know these decisions haven't gone for us recently, and that's the whole reason why Klopp wasn't on the touchline today, because he made that very clear. Maybe he did it in the wrong way. I don't know, but I think he's got a point because there were so many decisions today. I'm going to talk about the goal now. And again, this is going to open up a debate because for me, I watched it back. I was seeing the VAR. For one, I can't remember the last time I saw a referee check VAR for an offside anyway. So I don't know why that happened. I always thought it was the guys in the van that did offsides. But again, maybe I just don't know as much as I thought I did. But I just can't for the life of me understand how they've not decided that. I can't remember who it was. The Villa player hasn't played the ball. He's gone to clear the ball. Whether he scuffed it or not, fine. That's his fault for not kicking the ball properly. But he's played the ball. His legs moved towards the ball. That is playing the ball. But because Virgil's standing in an offside position, they've said that he's not played the ball and Virgil's offside. So I couldn't understand it. At the time, I was ripping my hair out because I had no idea what they were even checking for. But Craig, can you enlighten me how they've decided that the defender wasn't playing the ball? Because I just can't get it for the life of me.
I think they're just saying that he stood there. I think that's all. That's the only defense they have, is that he got in the way of it as opposed to playing it. But even still, no. Like, as a defender, you stand there to get in the way. That's as simple as that. It was. I don't know. No, it's definitely a goal. There's no. There obviously he gone back and he says subjective, and that's the worst. The worst thing we can have is these subjective decisions when one ref will say it's one thing and another ref will say it's another. How do you control that?
Yeah, exactly. And Mike, it was just, for me, it seemed like a proper dampener because we seem to be getting the momentum, we seem to be pushing, and then Gakpo finally gets the goal, and then we're back to square one. They've not gone down to 10 men. We haven't got the equalising goal, so you're all of a sudden thinking, oh, we've got to go again. So what was it like for you? First of all, do you agree with what me and Craig have just said?
I do agree to an extent. I think anytime a ref goes subjective opinion, it's always not ideal because there should be a very small percentage of subjectivity when it comes to these types of things. I think when it comes to him, the defender's positioning, is he aware of where he's putting the ball, which is the question. If it's deflected off him, he has no idea where the ball's going. Is he aware of where he's moving the ball to? Yeah, he is. I don't see how that's subjective. So in that sense, yeah, for me, he's onside. The goal should stand. I personally have not seen a ref go and check for an offside VAR decision since the very early days of VAR. So when that happened, it's very hard not to feel like the whole, my team v the world moment. Every club feels that, every support feels that in a moment. VAR has screwed over many teams this season. It's not just us, but that personally was not ideal. And yeah, it sucked the atmosphere out again. It was one of those, we were building momentum, building the moment. Goal goes in. It's looking good. We're all begging for Bobby to come on. I felt like if we were all begging Bobby to come on from half time, if I'm honest with you. But yeah, I don't know. It sucked the life out of the team again. And you could see the frustration. I think there was a close up on Trent at one point just after the goal, and I think he was the most frustrated figure in the starting 11 today. Just throughout the game, you just see him getting agitated with the decisions, and understandably so. I think he's shown, just a slight side note, I think Trent has shown a lot more visible passion, or however you want to put it. I think he's always worked hard. I think he's always gave all he can. But some people have questioned his attitude at times. I think he's shown a lot more visible passion in the last couple of weeks to maybe, and hopefully that's appeased some people that question his sort of dedication, because I do think he's very dedicated, and I think he's a future captain of the club, if I'm honest with you, but it's my biased opinion.
100%, Mike. I've said this a lot on this podcast, where Trent, even when he was playing at his absolute best and the peak seasons we had under Trent, he always played with that sort of like slouch in his game, like, oh, I'm the man that, and that's just confidence. Like, that's not arrogance or him thinking he's better than he was just a very confident kid. And obviously, when it's not going right and he's not getting assists and maybe his side is being exploited, that's when obviously people are going to pick up and say, oh, he's not being bothered. For me, I've not really seen much of a difference in Trent. Obviously, he's not been great. I'm not going to pretend he's had an incredible season. He's had an incredible last 10 games. But for me, I think it's silly to question whether he cares. Like, he's a local lad. This is his club.
Yeah.
In my opinion, he's going to be a captain of the club in the future. And just on today's game, I don't think it was his game. It wasn't his day. I think Villa obviously did well to park the bus and cut off his options. And obviously that shot he gets, I think maybe he could do better there.
Yeah.
But look, the last 10 games, like I say, he's been faultless. So he's due to have one where maybe it doesn't necessarily go his way. So
yeah,
it is
exactly.
what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But we do get the goal, Craig. Salah to Bobby Firmino, and this is the moment we was all dreaming of, wasn't it? Like, even though we didn't win, even though top four looks like it's gone, that's all we can take from this game. Bobby Firmino gets the goal in front of the Kop, exactly before he leaves, and it was emotional, wasn't it? Seeing that, like, seeing the way he celebrated. Obviously, he couldn't celebrate too much because we still had a game to chase. But that's exactly what we wanted, isn't it, mate?
Yeah, like today was an emotional day throughout. I think, sorry, just to go back a bit, even the start of the match, it was nearly too emotional in a way. Like, we were pressing like monsters in the first 10, 15 minutes. Like, the crowd was going mad, and we were, it was kind of back to the early days of Klopp in a way. It was like heavy metal, but just with no control, and that's what we improved on over time with him. And it felt really like that at the start, and maybe the emotion of the day got the better of us. The last day in Anfield, the crowd was really up for it. And as you say, once the atmosphere was killed, we really needed a Bobby to bring us back into it and like to actually get the crowd going again. If that goal was allowed and that was a Bobby Firmino winner, imagine just the scenes
would have come off, man.
Yeah,
absolutely. Mike, anything to follow on from that, mate? Exactly what we dreamt of, wasn't it?
Mate, it's a dream scenario, wasn't it? I've seen before. I'm not sure if this is true or not, but his Salah's first goal was assisted by Bobby, and Bobby's last goal was assisted by Salah, and it is poetry, isn't it? Really, you can't really write anything better than that. I think those two just had such an incredible link up. Sorry, Craig, go on.
No, I just want to say what an assist from Salah as well.
Outside the left foot, but we're so used to that, where it's like no one's even talking about how insane that is. You know what I mean? Like, we're so used to that quality. He's done that a couple of times with the outside of his left foot, and it's, I don't know, Ben, what did you think of the assist? Like, genuinely?
Yeah, I think obviously that's a side to Salah's game. I think that had been questioned before last season. I think people used to say if he doesn't score, he can go missing. And today, again, I'm not going to pretend he had a perfect game. There were moments that he was quite frustrating, where he was getting his passing wrong and stuff. But in those clutch moments, in that exact moment of time where you need a goal to even give you some sort of a chance, Salah comes up and so does Bobby. And yeah, it was a brilliant assist. It was a wonderful pass. Bobby gets his goal. And that leads us on, guys, perfectly to talk about the three lads that are going, because I wanted to talk about them. And is it 3? Milner?
4.
Oh, it's maybe 4. Yeah, it's 4.
Right, one spent half his career on the injury table, mate, so it's easy to forget.
Yeah.
As Crawl, sorry, that's mean.
Nah, I mean, look, they've all done some. Let's exclude Arthur, okay? Arthur, with no disrespect to you at all.
Yep.
You came on for 20 minutes, and after 5 minutes, you were blowing out your backside. I wish you all the best. And it's not your fault that you came into this mess. It was, it was an absolute shambles. I remember doing a deadline day stream with me and 3 other guys on this channel, and we were trying our best to, hype up, like, yeah, what if he's good, and then we can activate the 30 million. It was absolute shambles from start to finish. But I wish him all the best because he seems like a good guy. I read the comments that he said after, he really wanted to make this work, but unfortunately, he just wasn't able to. But the other guys, Millie, Ox, Naby, and Bobby, all of those guys, and I don't care what anybody says. I have got a Naby Carter shirt behind me. I am a big fan of Naby. I always have been, and I always will be. I don't know what your guys' opinions are on them yet, but all of those guys, Ox, Naby, Milner, Bobby, we all know Bobby's the biggest one, the biggest legend out of those guys leaving. That goes without saying. He's an all-time great. He's one of the best forwards we'll ever see at Liverpool, and there won't be another one like him. There won't be another forward that comes to this club that isn't bothered about getting goals and assists. Where I can't remember who it was, but literally the ball. There was a game where the ball was crossing over the line. Somebody else had shot, and he could have literally tapped it in, and he just left it. Like, you're not going to get that with anybody else. Darwin Núñez would smash the ball in the back of the net if that happened to him. So would Salah. They all would. Yeah, maybe. But we won't get another one like him. So let's just talk about Bobby first, because he is the legend. He's the one that everybody, and Milner is as well. But Craig, Bobby Firmino, mate, what does that guy mean to you, and how emotional was you today, mate?
So emotional. Like I'm a bit hoarse from singing "Si Senor" in the house. Just all day. Couldn't get the tune out of my head. Had to keep it going. But like, having a sexy Brazilian on your team, like, that's just, hate to use the word sexy in the wrong capacity, but no, like having that samba style over the years has just been such a blessing. Like having. We talk about the Brexit midfield and all that, but like some of the backheel assists, some of the backheel goal as well. Just the flair, the flashiness, and I remember at the very start with Rodgers and people talking about, oh, he's a bit gritty, he's not your typical Brazilian in that way. He gets stuck in, and he's like, that's exactly like the best part of him. He was style and he was fierce. He's going to be missed, but got to say Gakpo is a good student of his, and will bring something else, because and here I try to be as balanced as possible with the views. So we have, let's not forget, Bobby this season has been the Bobby that we've always wanted. He's got the goals to match everything else as well. So that they're he over time he didn't score as much as he should have, and exactly what you're saying there. Because he was completely unselfish, but we did need goals from all 3 forwards as well. So I think it is the right time, but I'm very sad to see him go, because there's going to be nobody like him. Yeah, exactly what you're saying.
100%. Mike, you share that sentiment, mate?
Yeah, man. I mean, I don't know about you lads, but like, I kind of grew up with Bobby, so I was like 16 when Bobby signed. I remember, I'll never forget, because I absolutely hated him. I'll be honest with you. I remember the United game when we were under Rodgers, and we had Danny Ings playing left wing back, and we had Roberto Firmino playing right wing. Yeah, shake your head. That was a reality we had at one point. So when people get on Twitter and going, "This is the worst LFC side I've ever seen," it's like, I've seen Danny Ings play left back. Don't tell me that. But we had Firmino playing right wing. And I remember thinking at the time, I was like, I don't see it. I really don't see it. Don't get me wrong, I was 16. I didn't know anything then anyway. But like, I couldn't see the appeal. I thought he was slow on the ball. I thought he was technically good, but I thought he was too slow for the league. Klopp comes in. The moment he moved to the false 9, it's a whole different player that was unlocked. And I think what he's brought to this team can't be replicated. Like Cody Gakpo, yeah, wonderful student of his. I think he'll fit the false 9 well. But what Firmino did or has achieved over the last 8 years is just, he is symbolic of what Klopp stands for football. It's selfless, it's hardworking, there's doubters to believers kind of thing. You know what I mean? He never stopped. Doesn't matter if we're 3-0 down, 4-0, 3-1 up, 5-0 up. He works the same. And I think that is a rare attribute in a footballer. And yeah, he deserves more he deserves more than just to be a squad player, which unfortunately, just because of the way we are and we're in transition now, he will be that if he were to stay. And I really respect the fact that he knows that. He's chose on his own to end on his own terms. I got a lot of respect for that. I think the fans do too. He's not overstaying the welcome. He's closing on his own book. And then that way he'll always be missed. And I'm sure next season we'll have a run of games where things maybe don't click. Maybe it's just one game. There'll be a couple of guys on Twitter going, shouldn't have sold Bobby. Why did we sell Bobby? About a year ago, they were probably tweeting to sell him. So it's always the way.
I don't want Bobby to leave. I still don't want him to leave. I would
either.
have loved to have seen him retire here. I think even if he had a lesser role and he played in the Cups or Europa League, I think, it would have been fine. But obviously, he's been here 8 years. I'm the same as you, Mike. I was 16, just starting college when we signed Bobby. And, 8 years with a player in football in this era is a lot, because most stay for 4 or 5 years. And he will be missed. He will definitely be missed both on and off the pitch. It seems like every single person in the world has come across Bobby Firmino, adored him, and his song will be sang for years to come on the Cop. For sure. He's got a mural now. They just finished that, which is absolutely sensational artwork. I don't know the guy's name who did it, but it's just stunning. And yeah, I think, like you say, Mike, spot on. That's a player that for me epitomizes what Jurgen Klopp did for this team, and he is the main source behind it all. And now we only have Salah left, that amazing front three that we all grew up loving. So it is sad. It's very sad, but like you say, you hit the nail on the head.
And Ben's gone.
I thought I was the one with the bad internet.
It's all right, man. It's me and you now. We're running the pod, so this is it. We can just say what we want to get away with it. Oh, he's
sorry.
back.
I can't remember what I said. Yeah, so Diaz and Gakpo comes in. I said this last season as well about Diaz. He came in for me at the perfect time, because he came in and had 6 months when Sadio Mane was still there, so he could kind of learn, get to know him, get to know what his position's about. And it's the same with Bobby and Gakpo, because everyone's like, when he came in, oh, why is he playing through the middle? He's a left wing on FIFA. But it's like, we've literally seen him play through the middle in the World Cup, where I think he scored 3 goals. And for me, his skill set is similar. It's not the same as Bobby, because nobody will have that. I need to make that perfectly clear. But I can see a lot of similarities in terms of how they play. And I definitely think that is the way they fought. We get Gakpo in January when a couple of other clubs were sniffing around him, and when Bobby leaves, we're good to go with Cody. And by the way, he's absolutely took to this team like duck to water. He's been brilliant.
Yeah.
But we need to talk about the other lads. I could sit here with you guys talking about Bobby all night. I could do it. He is a GOAT for me. Like, it's so sad. Yeah, and somebody said a minute ago, Eunice, if Newcastle and Man United win, I think you will see a B team against Southampton. I'm going to that game. I've been sorted. An absolute legend that I know I'm very close with has sorted me out. I'm not bothered, mate. I'm not bothered if we played Ben Doak, Kelleher, Tsimikas. I don't care. As long as I see Bobby on that day to get my farewell, because I wasn't able to go today, that I don't care, mate. I honestly don't care. As long as I get to do that, then I'm happy. But let's talk about Ox and Naby in one, guys, because I want to move this on, and then we'll touch on Milner. Craig, what are your thoughts on those two, mate? Both, for me, did a job. Both did a role. But the similarities between both of them, his injuries just absolutely killed them.
Yeah, like I've been a fan of Naby since the start, and like Ox as well, big time. But I think Naby was the one that needed to be minded a bit more with everyone. But when he was on form, when he wasn't coming straight back from an injury, which unfortunately, again, that's a part of it. People were judging him straight off the back. He wasn't fit, and then going, that's it, he's done. But that's just a false narrative about the guy. Naby Keita was a quality player for us. Brought us something completely different. Like we talk about Ronaldo being press resistant. Like Naby was a press beater, and that was something we didn't always have. Similar to Thiago in a way. And again, like the guys had skills. The guy had long ranges in him, and those were the only things that people could actually compliment him about. They could watch him in a game and say he did nothing, when in my mind he would have been a man of the match behind Trent or Salah, who would have got it for the assists or the goals. He should have got a lot more man of the matches in my mind, especially last season. But he unfortunately, injuries is the legacy for both of them. Ox has kind of in a way, because of the latter stage of his injuries, we've kind of forgotten about him more so in a way. Whereas Naby thankfully was on the quad run. They both should be remembered. I just hope that wherever they go, they get to play a bit of football, and we can see them be the quality players that they are. Because if they're the main stars in the team, I can see them flying wherever they go.
Absolutely spot on. And Mike, I think that's perfectly summed up from Craig. I think both shown brilliance, both shown what they can do, but just held back, weren't they?
Yeah, it's a sad one really, because I think when Ox was going for us, and that, don't know if it was his first season, maybe it was his second. I think it was his first when he scored that worldie against City. That his first season. Yeah. Like when he was going then, I think we all agreed, like, this is the midfielder unlocked. We wanted to play in the centre, idolized Gerrard in terms of the box-to-box mentality, box-to-box work rate, rather. And he had a heck of a shot on him. I think we've seen some really great moments from him. I do think we got the best out of him. I really do think that. I think we've seen the best version of Ox. It's a shame his injuries happen the way they have, and he's missed large parts of his career here because of that. But yeah, it's like Craig said, wherever he goes next, same with Naby. I hope they're the main man there. I hope they get the love they deserve, because they're great players for us that have produced moments. It's a shame they couldn't have produced more, but it's not down to a lack of want. It's not down to a lack of work rate. It's just a bit of bad luck. And Naby's a great player. I know you can get a perception from him from social media that it is, but that is what it is. Like I think he's a top player. I do. I think, as Craig said, press resistant. He's a good passer of the ball. I think his link up play in the final third was one of our best until Thiago arrived. Just is what it is. Unfortunately, when it comes to injuries, we can't have that at the club anymore. We need to move past it. To be fair,
just on what you're saying there. Sorry, just on what you're saying about the Bucks against City. It was that tie that gave us the belief that we could beat City, and it was the year after that we went on to become the mentality monsters that we are. So that really did help write the story of where he went.
And he scored some worldies. Let's keep that in mind. There's some of the goals Ox has scored from us. You do a little goal compilation of his. He scored a worldie in the Champions League for us. I think it was this year or last year or something in the group stage. Can't believe it, man. Go look at it back if you can't remember it. It's one of the best goals I've seen, like for a minute.
Yeah, you're right. I think my Wi-Fi might have dropped a bit, so hopefully I'm still good. Yeah, no, both of them for me had moments and just frustration. I think that's the word you can use for both of them, really. But for me, more particularly, Naby, because I think obviously when we signed him, we had to give him back to Leipzig for a season. They've given him the 8, which is a massive honor. He was one of the most hyped midfielders in the world. Let's not forget when we signed him, I think he was 22 or 23. Can't exactly remember. He was one of the most talked about midfielders. Like every week there'd be clips of Naby Keita at Leipzig, this guy that's just absolutely destroying it over there. And we did see it. We did see glimpses of it. I was at the Carabao Cup final last season when he had to come in on 5 minutes notice because Thiago had got injured. And he absolutely bossed it there. The Leicester City game last season. There's been so many moments, and I think that's the word you use for both of them. There's been moments. There's never really been a sustained amount of time where they've both been incredible. But again, no fault to their own. I think people are a bit harsh, especially when it comes to ability, because I think it's important to remember that availability and ability, that you can't just say a player's not good because they're unavailable. Like Thiago is barely available, and we all know how good he is. So I don't know why the energy changes for Naby, especially when we've seen what he can do. But I agree. I wish them both the best wherever they go. And I'm sure, it will be a risk for whoever does sign them because they've got to consider the amount of games that they might miss. But I'm sure both will probably go to top clubs. I have no doubt about that. Finally, the last departure we need to discuss is the vice capitan. A man who, if you listen to what Klopp and Henderson have to say, things wouldn't have happened if this man wasn't at the club. That's their words. That's how much they, appreciate James Milner. And Craig, when we signed this guy on a free from Man City, if you cast your mind back to 15-16, was it 15-16 or 16-17?
It was 15-16 because it was a Rodgers sign. Yeah.
Craig, what was you thinking, mate? This guy coming from City, won league titles. Do you think it was because there was one trophy that had eluded him, mate, when he was at Man City?
Well, I was delighted to see him come across because we were talking about, we needed winners in the squad, and like we brought one of the best over. And like aside from what he wanted to achieve personally, I don't know what if it was just for the Champions League to come to us, but he definitely made it his home. Like the James Milner door in the AXA, like the guy a part of the furniture forever, as they say. Like what they say, like, you know, from playing sports, like if you have that one guy who's pushing everyone in fitness, you know, that means everyone's just running that bit faster, that bit harder the whole time, and like that intensity. I hope we can drive that on without him, but that's an unquantifiable benefit that, you know, is happening every day that we don't see. You know, and like that can build up to the weekend, and like, you know, in a good way or in a bad way. Unfortunately, this season we saw that all those moments building up in a bad way, outside the 90 minutes we were watching as well. Whereas now it feels like there's a bit of feel good factor around the training ground and everything else. So it's just about, you know, people talk about getting rid of Henderson. That'd be the last thing we should do right now when we're losing James Milner. I don't care about the minutes he plays. He needs to be on the training ground with the players, pushing everyone. So that I'll be sad to see him go for many reasons coming on in the 70th to the 80th minute and getting that, you know, token yellow card for the day. We're gonna miss that. It's just selfless.
Absolutely. And Mike, this is a man that did a season at left back when we needed somebody to fill in. This is a man that halved his wages to stay at the club. He's only on I say only, but he's on 60 grand a week at the minute. He was on double a couple of seasons ago. So yeah, when it comes to James Milner, mate, how are you feeling about him and how important, like, you know, we hear from Klopp and from the captain, and we wouldn't have been able to do what we've done without James Milner in the squad. Do you feel the same?
Yeah, I agree 100%. I think first thing, Eunice has just put in the chat saying that in his last interview, Klopp said that he wanted him to stay. It doesn't surprise me in the slightest. It also doesn't surprise me the club took action, because unfortunately I think we're in a position now where we need a bit of a clear out. I personally wouldn't have got rid of Milner. I'm in agreement with Craig. I wouldn't get rid of Hendo. Sorry, you seen the Newcastle comment? Yeah. Unreal. I respect it. You know, you guys have got a season in Champions League. It's fair play.
They'll be in Europa anyway. We'll see them in Europa. So it's
nice. Yeah, it is what it is. You know, enjoy. Away from that, it's Milner is a club legend. I think he exemplifies what a footballer should be. I think he is probably going to go down as one of the, I say, a Premier League legend. Yeah, you can argue that maybe ability-wise, he's not going to be in the same conversation as some, but I think in terms of longevity and leadership, he's very, very high up. He's given everything. He's scored in important moments. He's assisted in very important moments. If you guys remember the Dortmund game, the incredible comeback against Dortmund, he's the lad that provided the assist for the winner. Like he's always been there when we've needed him most, and the impact Milner has, similar to Henderson, I think most importantly isn't even on the pitch. It's in the training sessions. It's in the dressing room. So he's going to be a huge miss, and it's a shame he's going. And with Henderson, just to touch on that, because I think Craig made a good point. A lot of fans are calling for Henderson to leave, you know, saying he's not good enough and all that. And I do agree that we're in a position now where he shouldn't be in the starting 11 next season, because we need
We all agree on that, yeah.
Yeah, I think we all agree on that. I don't agree that he should leave, because I think he, like Milner, you need someone who sets the culture at a club, someone who sets the standard. And Henderson sets the culture, he sets the standard. You ask anyone in football about Jordan Henderson. My brother works at Liverpool Football Club, right? You ask anyone about Jordan Henderson, right? They'll tell you the exact same thing. He's the first one in, he's the last one out, he's the hardest worker, he's the loudest mouth, he's the best communicator there. And people want to sell him. Why? Because he can't put in an 8 out of 10 every week anymore. That's fine. Put him on the bench, rotate him when needed, play him in the cup games. But he is so crucial to us now, especially with Milner leaving. We need to make sure we keep that leadership.
I agree 100%. I get when people are frustrated with his football ability, like you've just said. You know, we've seen him in this new sort of setup, spend a lot of times on the right. And come on, this isn't 2012. Like, he's not at Sunderland. We can't do that, which is why I think, without going too much into it right now, we've seen Mason Mount linked with us, because I think he would be able to do that role pretty fine. But yeah, I agree with you, mate. I think a lot of the stuff that's said about him is a bit sad, to be fair. But I also mean this in no disrespectful way to anybody on social media at all. But I think Gini Wijnaldum alluded to it when he left, that on social media and in the ground, there was two sort of different sort of receptions. Like in the ground, everyone sang his song, everybody praised him, but then he said whenever we conceded or we lost, he'd see on social media that it was his fault. And look, I'm not sat here saying Henderson's the player he was in 1819 or 1920. He's not. And I'm not saying that he should start next season. He shouldn't. I agree with you, Michael, 100%. But this is why this summer is the most crucial window in our tenure under Klopp so far, because we have to get it right. We have to make sure we make enough signings so that Fabinho, Henderson, they're not playing 50 games a season anymore. So I think that's the key to remember. This season, yeah, fine, we got it wrong in the summer. Klopp's probably the first to admit that. But to say all this stuff about Henderson, saying that that he should leave, and there's so much more worse stuff that I'm not going to repeat, but some of the kind stuff you see about him, I think it's mad, to be fair myself. And like you say, mate, we're in the Europa League. You could easily play him in there, the cups, and then bring him on, see games out. If that's the role he wants, great. If he doesn't want it, then maybe you do have to think about him. But look, again, let's see what we are going to do. And we have said goodbye to a few players today, but that's why it's so important that we look onto the future. And by doing that, guys, when the game was on, I don't know why TAT tweeted this out. When the game was on, when I was losing my mind at the game, I saw a notification pop up on my phone, and I was like, yeah, we got to sign MacAllister. And then on the other hand, I was like, oh, we still need a goal. So I didn't know what to think. But Gaston Edu, who is a brilliant journalist, very reliable, says that MacAllister will sign for Liverpool. There's a couple more I want to share as well before we get into it. Exclusivo. Alexis Mac Allister, Joguero in Liverpool. I use Google Translate to show you guys what it says. Alexis Mac Allister will play for Liverpool. The Argentine midfielder, world champion in Qatar, will leave Brighton in exchange for a fortune. But then Fabrizio Romano came out and said personal terms are almost agreed between Liverpool and MacAllister after the project presented in April. Deal not done yet. There are still details left. Pochettino appreciates him. No issues with Brighton. Being told there's a fixed price for Alexis exit in June. But then there's another tweet that Fabrizio Romano has said Liverpool are really, really close to completing Alexis Mac Allister signing. It is a matter of final details left to be completed. The agreement with Brighton will not be a problem because it is a fixed amount of price decided to let Alexis go. So, Craig, obviously, I've not spoken to you about Mac Allister yet. Neither of you boys, to be fair. But what are your thoughts on Mac Allister as a player, mate? It looks like this deal, there's still a couple of finer details to be done. But it looks like we're going to get him, doesn't it?
Yeah, it looks like we're going to get him at a good price considering the market. The way the price for midfielders nowadays, considering what Enzo went for in January, it's an unknown. The window hasn't opened yet, really. So we're all just guesstimating. But if it is 60 million or 70, I've seen the same person said 60 in one tweet and then 70 in another. I don't know if it was a currency exchange or something went wrong, but. In and around that, he's got the Premiership experience, World Cup winner, another Gini Wijnaldum. That's all. The only thing I can say after the conversation we just had about Ox and Naby is let's hope he stays fit. That's the main thing, because if he does, I think even today, like our midfield when we were at our best, they were nearly. It's like you didn't see them at times, and that was what their function was to feed the guys, not be the main stars. And I think he really ticks that box. He'll just come in, he'll link the play up, and give us a bit more defensive pressure as well. Which I think that was the only thing I thought was actually Henderson's issue today. I thought he was actually decent on the ball. I thought it was actually his zonal pressure, which was off. So yeah, that will be a huge difference because again we won't be weak on one side of the pitch, depending on how things go. So. I'm very, very excited, and it'd be nice to get the news in early as well, because I think after the season we've had, the fans need a bit of a lift. Unfortunately, I'm not a big fan of saying signings are what we need. I like to find the solutions from within, but after this season, a signing would definitely lift the mood.
Absolutely, Mike. Obviously, like I said, I've not spoken to you about MacAllister, so just give us a brief idea on how you see him. You see him fitting in. You see him being a good signing for money. Like, what's your thoughts, mate?
Yeah, I think as well. I do think it's going to be a much lower fee than originally said. I wouldn't be surprised if it was 45 to 50. I don't believe any hype of the 70 mil. So some maybe max 60. But that's my opinion. I could be completely wrong on that. I have nothing to go on.
I
for
think that was reported yesterday, to be fair, that it will be 60 or around 60 because I saw a lot of people melting down saying, like, why are we paying 80 million? Like, nobody said that.
Yeah,
So I
that
think
sounds
you're
about
right. I
right.
think it's going to be lower than. I think it might have been Fabricio that said it. I can't
I
be
think I've
100%
seen
certain.
something similar because I actually think that's
Yeah.
probably where my mind's pulled that from.
Mm.
So yeah, listen, 50, 60 mil. If it's like 60 plus add-ons or 50 plus add-ons, whatever, I think it's a great deal. I think it's interesting the players we've been linked with because you look at MacAllister, you look at Mount, you look at Gravenberch, Barella. They're a different mold to the midfielders of the, if you want to call it, the first generation of Klopp players. We had hard-working, hard-pressing players that weren't necessarily technically gifted. Don't get me wrong, I think Gini Wijnaldum was very technically gifted, but you would never consider them effective in the final third. They were just
Yeah.
hard workers to distribute it to the front three. Whereas I think if you look at these midfielders we're linked with, even Barella, they're all very effective in the final third. They're all obviously very press resistant, but they're all very technically good as well. And I think that's an interesting switch up in our recruitment. So it's just going to be interesting to see whether that's something to do with a different system or whether that's just maybe it's luck of the draw. I don't know. I think he'll slide in really well. I can imagine him sliding in where we have Jones at the moment. Although I do think Jones, if he continues good form, does deserve a start next season. But MacAllister's the left side of a three. And then we're going to sign someone for the right side of the three. Maybe that's Mount. Who knows? But MacAllister plays on the left side of the three for us. He plays there for Argentina, depending on their shape. For Brighton. And he plays for Argentina in a similar role, depending on their shape. Obviously, he played off Messi for the final couple of games of the World Cup. So it'll be very interesting to see how he fits in. I think he'll fit in well. I think he'll get the number 10 shirt as well. So, there's a lot of responsibility there. Imagine a long-term contract. So, yeah, I'm excited by it. What about you? How are you feeling?
Yeah, I share the same views, mate. To be fair, I think this season we decided, and wrongfully so, to go ahead with the same guys in midfield again. And to be fair, maybe they thought, for whatever reason, they were confident they would get Jude for the price they had in mind. That obviously didn't work out. So obviously they decided to go with that group that we already had. And I've said so many times, I've come out and said that it's wrong and it's ridiculous that we did that. I'm not going to go through all of that again. But it's onwards and upwards. And, MacAllister, if he's turned down other clubs like Reporter to come and play for us, that is the best news that I could possibly hear, because that shows that there have been other clubs that have tried to get him, but he wants us and he wants to work with Klopp. He wants to be, that centerpiece of this midfield rebuild. And I love that. If a player wants to come here, if a player is determined to turn other clubs down to come to Liverpool, that's the best bit of news I can hear when we're linked to a player. So that's that in terms of him as a person. But I've been to 3 Brighton games in the last 2 seasons, and the guy's been brilliant every single time. Every single time I've watched him against us, I'm just come away from the game thinking, like, he's a player that's not going to be there for long. And obviously, the money, people will say it's too much, whatever. Fine, I don't care. You can't say for 1 minute we need all these players, and why aren't they spending? And then on the other hand, when we do go and do that, say it's too much. For me, I just don't get why people are like that. But that is the day and age we live in, I guess. I'm excited for it. I think if Klopp's seen what obviously what he's seen in him, he knows that he can play in the system. He knows that he can be that player that can find that space, that can be that technically gifted player to break down a low block like today, for example. And that's going to do absolute wonders for us, because even though we've been bad, we still have 60, 65, 70% of the ball every game. And you need players that can do something with that ball when you've got that amount of possession. So we've obviously seen what MacAllister can do. He's also got 10 goals as well from midfield this season, which is something that we've not really had. I think Curtis Jones has like 3 in the last, however. Yeah, he's got 10. He's in double figures. Wow. A few of those were pens, and he's obviously not going to take pens for us if Salah's on the pitch. But I'm happy. I think we're moving in the right direction. A year too late, admittedly, or maybe a couple of years too late. but you know, it is what it is. We're finally looking like we're rectifying it. MacAllister looks like he's going to sign. You know, I wouldn't be surprised if after that Southampton game next week, something from Paul Joyce comes out almost instantly, to be fair. So let's see what happens, guys. And we will be live again if that signing gets confirmed or when it gets confirmed. And we'll talk about it in more depth because obviously we've had to talk about a lot today. You know, we don't like going over an hour, to be fair, but MacAllister looks like he's going to sign, guys. It looks like personal terms have been agreed or close to being agreed, I think the reports are saying. But yeah, I'm confident now that he is going to sign and become a Liverpool player. But guys, that's all we've got time for tonight, to be fair. I'm going to leave it at that. Please make sure you smash the subscribe button because we are going to be more constant on this throughout next season, especially in the postseason or the close season, sorry. We're going to do different streams as well, different type of stuff. We're going to do like a award show. I mean, there's not really many to give out, to be fair, but we're going to just discuss the season. We're going to look back on it and see where it went wrong and what we need to do for next season, all that kind of stuff. Next season as well, sorry, in the summer, we're going to start bringing previews onto the channel as well. So we're going to talk about upcoming fixtures rather than just going live at the end of every game. We're also going to be looking ahead of games as well and just having more in-depth discussions about Liverpool and how we're getting on. So guys, thanks for watching. Make sure you tune in after Southampton next week. It will most likely be Monday because I'm going to be there and it's an absolute trek to Southampton from where I live. Yeah, make sure you're around, put your notifications on, make sure you show these guys some love. They've been absolutely class in the first stream on the channel, and we'll see you guys next week after the season concludes. Take care and goodbye for now.